So I want to speak a bit about our chosen theme here, which is illuminating visions. Why are we doing this? Why have we chosen this theme? So there's a strong sense among people living in the world today that we're living in kind of a dark time. And when we think about, there's probably a dozen or more existential risks to humanity that are all coalescing at this time. And whether it's the threat of nuclear war or environmental catastrophe, economic collapse, AGI, you name it. There's many things that are scary going on in this world at this time right now. And at the same time, psychedelics are re-emerging on a global scale. And revolutionary medical treatments are coming into existence. And people are working out long-standing ancestral traumas that have plagued lineages for time immemorial. And there does seem to be a sense of collective awakening out of this consumerist, disenchanted slumber that humanity has been going through for the past, you name it, number of years. So I always turn back to this phrase that I love, which is that things are getting better and better and worse, faster and faster. And I think that's the most succinct summation of the reality of our times right now. And as much darkness as you go searching for, you're going to find it. And likewise, as much light as you go searching for, you're going to find it. And this is just the reality of the yin and yang of the human situation. So, illuminating visions. We need those with vision to help lead us to where we should be going, to help guide us down the proper path amidst the chaos of reality. And we need illumination in order to see what that path is. So we have convened this symposium to bring the community together so that very smart and wise and thoughtful and heartfelt people, and we have an amazing lineup of people this weekend that is very impressive, can come together and collectively figure out what is the illuminating vision that is going to help us navigate this precarious time that we're existing in right now. So for me personally, at times when I feel like I need to refresh my vision or gain illumination, one of the places that I often turn is the Tao Te Ching. And so I'd like to just read a few lines from that ancient text before I move on. A man is born gentle and weak. At his death, he is hard and stiff. Green plants are tender and filled with sap. At their death, they are withered and dry. Therefore, the stiff and unbending is the disciple of death. The gentle and yielding is the disciple of life. So one of the problems that our world is facing, and in my mind, it's one of the central problems, which is rigidity. We see this play out in many forms in our world, but I think particularly so in terms of belief structures and discourse, and especially the discourse you see played out in the internet domain. People become rigidified by being pulled down into algorithmically insinuated reality tunnels. And where it comes to the point where person A and person B are looking at the same thing and drawing completely different conclusions about the reality of the situation, and both being absolutely convinced that there isn't a sliver of a shadow of a doubt in their mind that they're right. So this is rigidity. This is the stance of death. And if we think about, metaphorically, if we think about the circulatory system, the blood that pumps through our bodies, when the arteries become calcified, this leads to heart disease. And I think we're witnessing the proliferation of a psychospiritual heart disease that is moving through our culture. So when the new blood tries to flow, the passageways are already calcified. And if we look at what's happened with agriculture over the past 75 years and this process of monocropping, right, where you might have a 1,000-acre field that's just corn, and it's the same genotype and phenotype of corn. And so when we're producing this monoculture way of seeing the world, we look around and we say, oh, corn is all that is, and this type of corn is the right corn. So this is rigidity. This is the stance of death. And the stance of life is flexibility. And we know from the neuroscience research on psychedelics that one of the things that they're doing in the brain is actually helping to promote cognitive flexibility and helping people to make new neuronal connections and break out of their stuck patterns. And these patterns that might manifest as depression or anxiety or suicidality or these other maladies that people really suffer from, that keep them from being able to see and feel to that core of their inviolable, infinite, inimitable, and intrinsic worth. To paraphrase Terence McKenna, one of the things that psychedelics do, and the reason they're such social dynamite, to use his phrase, is that they allow us to see ourselves as ourselves, absent of all of the cultural trappings and impositions that are put onto us. And so we're here to co-discover an illuminating vision of how to proceed, to help co-discover a better way of being, to remember who we are and what we're here to do, and to figure out how we can navigate this particular moment of time where we are amidst this complex of dire predicaments. So we're here today and this weekend to help flex our minds and learn from a diversity of perspectives from people with a wide range of life experiences and ways of seeing the world, who are all earnestly here in good faith to deliver a message that they see as very important from their hearts. So, you know, anybody who's gone to school will tell you that a lot of what education is proper education is actually unlearning. And of course, there's a lot of important and infinite information that is valuable to learn, but it is just as important to unlearn. And we have a lot to unlearn because, again, these cultural infrastructure, it carries its own momentum and it carries us along with it. And so we get to this place where our soil is devoid of nutrients, which nobody wants because we all have to eat the food, and where our world is on the brink of world war, despite nobody wanting that because we all live here, where we're consuming a credit card's worth of microplastics a week despite nobody wanting that, because we all enjoy being alive. And there's hundreds of examples just like these of the cultural momentum carrying forward something that's actually against our best interests and against the desire of our heart. And when we're integrated as people, I think that our best interests and our heart's desire should map directly on top of one another. And it's not all terrible too. And so it's important to recognize that, to look at the light as well. We have systems that work. This microphone projects noise when I speak into it, and the lights come on when I flip the switch. And we're fortunate enough to live in a place where that's the case. I can hop on the bus at pretty much any hour of the day and get pretty much anywhere in the city. That's amazing. I can go to the supermarket or the farmer's market and get pretty much any food that I can desire. So a lot of things are working too. For the most part, of course, if you look close enough, there's cracks in the veneer of everything. But it's important to recognize that some systems are working, and not to mention the great human system of carrying forward wisdom and knowledge over millennia that we've been able to do through oral tradition and writing. Like, that's a system that works. So we can't just burn it all down and start from scratch, because that will create chaos and untold suffering. And we can't allow ourselves to keep going with things at the way they are, because we experience and witness the suffering that that's causing. So how do we find a way through? How do we thread the needle to move beyond human survival into human flourishing? And that's what we're here to help figure out. That's why we're all here, to try to help figure that out. How can we bring about the more beautiful world? And we can't be naive to think that there's only one way to do that, because again, the monoculture is the position of death. And to me, the way through is through taking the stance of Tao, which is the stance of both and neither. And in my experience, this is the stance of the psychedelic experience as well. It lowers those defensive buttresses that tell us everything that I think is right and absolute, and it decalcifies those psychological arteries so that vital life can flow. And I think anybody who's taken a high dose of psychedelics will tell you that things are more complex and interconnected than we can possibly imagine. And that often comes with that feeling of oceanic boundlessness, and maybe as that expression of universal consciousness. And along with the sense of feeling part of a human family or a family of beings, all along with the understanding that love has primacy and that love is the most important thing. This is, to me, the core message that I've received from the psychedelic experience over and over, is interconnectedness and love. Yeah. So, and these are things we know as children, and we forget because it's ground out of us through the experience of being in the world and being embedded in this culture. But it's time to remember. It's time to remember. And I love this idea that forgetting is actually not the opposite of remembering, but the opposite of remembering is dismembering. And so we've been dismembered by virtue of living in this global overculture mediated by the internet age that intrudes on everything and disconnects us from ourselves and from nature and from one another. So we need integration to bring it all in. And this is remembering. And we know what we're here to do. We know we're here to help. So we have an amazing lineup of people that are going to be speaking this weekend that are here to help us remember by sharing what's in their hearts, what's in their consciousness, what they've been thinking about, what they've been carrying forward. And there may be people who come up here and you really are resonating with everything they're saying. And there may be people who come up here and you don't really agree with a single thing. And that may be me right now. Great. Come talk to me later. Show me something I'm not seeing. But so instead of pushing people down these algorithmically enforced reality tunnels that create the terrifying circumstance where it's becoming difficult to even know what is objectively true, can we instead pull everyone in the way that an embrace pulls the other into the heart, to that center of feeling, to that space where we connect as human beings? Rather than us seeing the other as an avatar of ignorance or evil, can we see them as a fellow experiencer of the incredibly challenging and rewarding experience of being alive as a human being? And I just want to say that I think it's important that we recognize the truth that we create culture moment by moment through living it. And as much as it carries its own momentum, it also carries an infinite capacity for transformation. And so if we transform ourselves, we introduce that transformation into the cultural stream, and it's already shifted. And when we do that in community, then we create a field of transformation that then affects every other community that we're embedded in. So this is, in my opinion, why we are here this weekend. And I thank you all for being here and participating and joining in this to help us all co-envision what the beautiful world we can step into really can look like. And I'm so excited to experience and witness the tapestry of illuminating visions that the amazing speakers here weave for us today and tomorrow. So thank you all for being here. It means a lot.